welcome to episode 103 of the Friends of Zeus podcast. You can find us on all the formats, and we actually added today Audible and Amazon. You can check it out right now. We're there.
Nice.
Tonight is a nerd fest. We're going to talk Star Wars.
Wow.
We got a couple resident experts on Star Wars. I think I'm pretty good with it too, but Jason and apparently Toar are super nerds.
I'm not going to say that I'm an expert by any means, but you're not going to find anyone that loves it more than me. How about that?
Fair enough. I don't know, Jason might top you.
Hey, we can share it. I'm not greedy. We can all love it the most.
I love it.
There's only about 500 million people out there that also love it.
You know, it's crazy. You said episode 103. That's actually Chewbacca's cell in Jabba's palace. So it's a nice little thing.
That's how it's gonna go. That's how it's gonna go.
I think I'm going to be out nerded here.
I think it's safe to argue that it's the one movie, Desiree excluded, that all of us have seen multiple times. Any of them, even Phantom Menace, which I prefer to disregard. So
actually, that's an important point, though. Zeus, before you move on from there, Jason, we're all about the same age from previous disclosures, right? From what I remember, I'm 51. Jason, you look younger than that, and Desiree, you look like you're one of our kids. So you must be younger than that, right?
I'm 12.
Yes. Okay. Good. So, but age plays such an important role in where you feel this movie is. So, Jason, where did you come into this? Where did you come into Star Wars? We were at it from the inception. I don't quite think you were.
Yeah, no, I think I have very, very vague memory of maybe seeing Return of the Jedi when I was tiny in the theater.
Okay.
So I still had that as my favorite for years before growing into Empire.
Gotcha.
So,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You had a lot of time to see everything. Well, because that's the other thing that's important here. And Desiree, you're much younger as well, yes? So just to get a clarification. So have you seen them? You don't care?
I've never seen a Star Wars movie, and I do not care to. And I don't want to.
That's fine. That's totally cool. I have no I certainly
could not be bothered.
Yeah, okay. I get it. To say that we grew up with it is that doesn't even that's not right. It was the first thing that I remember sharing with all of my friends.
Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't just my friends in my grade. It was everybody I knew. What your circle when you're 6 isn't huge, it's but everybody was. It was the only thing that we could talk about. I saw it 3 times in the theaters, and I certainly wasn't one of the most.
I think I saw it 10 times in the theater.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah. I devoured it though, right? So much so that they had after they came out, then it was the making of Star Wars.
Yeah.
They had all that stuff because they revolutionized filmmaking too. It certainly wasn't isolated to being an iconic event in pop culture, right? It changed filmmaking.
All right. Well, wait a minute. Let's just take it back a second, because we're talking about, for our generation, I mean, like you said, Toar, you were alluding to the fact that this first movie came out in what, 77?
Yes.
May.
Okay, right. And it was 20th Century Fox, I believe, was the distributor. And I remember seeing it, it was publicized. Everybody knew there was this, it was on the heels of the success of Star Trek, right? And you could see in the trailers that it was this space epic
opera
thing, right? But no one really knew, but people still bought tickets and waited. It was a blockbuster. And I remember I was 6 years old, right? This was 77. And like you're saying, Tor, at that age, this is pre-internet, cell phones, everything at your fingertips, whatever. Going to the movies with your folks or your grandparents or whatever was like the thing as a little kid that was like going to Disney World when you couldn't afford to go to Disney World. And I remember sitting there, and I don't think I even appreciated it as much as like adults who saw this for the first time. Like maybe they'd seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, and maybe they'd.
I was just gonna say,
right?
Yeah,
maybe
that like,
and,
before that,
I
it
have
was
seen that.
2001.
right, and people had watched Star Trek on television, but no one was ready for a space opera / Western that was so well made by and George Lucas was he was a nobody, brand new 70s new generation of filmmakers that hadn't really put a stamp on anything. No one had ever heard of him. It was like,
well, wait, did he do American Graffiti before Star Wars? I think he did.
But
he did.
But this was so not American Graffiti. I mean, and also, and even
American Graffiti was a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It's acclaimed, but it certainly is like this. It didn't. You didn't say Star Wars is in the guy's future.
No, nobody.
But you could say that character-driven movies was definitely in his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's not what hooked us, though, man.
No.
I got to tell you,
it was the two sons.
It was awesome.
So what is it that hooked you guys? Because everything to me, it's not appealing at all.
I get it. So, okay. So, what was when you were watching stuff growing up, what was did you get into science fiction? Any fantasy, any Care Bears, whatever?
She's a girl.
Listen, let me also preface
Care Bears.
There's all kinds of stuff. Power Rangers was big among girls, right?
I have like clinical ADHD. I don't watch TV and I don't watch movies. I can't. My attention span is about this big.
So books.
So I don't read books. I can't read books either.
Wait a minute. You gotta acknowledge the elephant in the room. Okay. Even in the 1970s and the 80s, Star Wars was kind of a boy thing.
Oh my God!
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think that has changed dramatically in today's world. I mean, good God, the kids today are coming up on Ahsoka and Rebels, and it's a totally different world to what we had. It's it's not female dominant, but it's much more well represented, right? So I get that it's not appealing if like there's not much you can do about it. Like you like what you like, right? Like I'm not going to convince you to like it or watch it, right? So, but
no, and you don't need to. I just want to know, just for that, like what about it was so captive?
Well, when you're okay, so so looking, you're clinical, but you obviously looking at that when you look at kids aren't clinical, right? Most of the time, that's not a normal trait, right? Right, unless you're right, exactly. So that could be, but most of the time, like we can be enamored with shiny bells and whistles. And this was the ultimate in bells and whistles. They literally made new filmmaking to make this movie. Like nobody had ever seen anything that we were seeing for the first time when we were 6. And now we expected that from everything that we saw. Yeah. Because it was that good cinematically. Like it totally changed the way you go to the movies now. Like it spawned everything. Industrial Light and Magic is like it literally came out of thin air.
If I may,
the effects that we want to do to make this movie. So we have to make new filmmaking. Like it's unbelievable. Like so.
Zeus.
Appreciating that as little kids. I saw a big freaking 8-foot Wookiee walking around. And I was scared to death of Darth Vader and lightsaber duels. And I'm like, oh my God, when you're 6, come on, that's as good as it gets.
No, he wrote this in, no doubt.
So if I may, I think that it was far more, and I use this term a lot, but I think it was far more choreographed than we think. A lot of Star Wars is based on Joseph Campbell's ideology.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me get in some words here, Tor.
Please. I'm just yesing you along. Please. I'm not saying nothing.
No. I know. So Joseph Campbell had this theory that with every religion, you have this person who starts off normal, aka Luke Skywalker, goes off into the distance and comes back and is supernatural. And that covers like Allah, Jesus, Buddha. You can loosely, at bare minimum, loosely connect these things. And so the psychology behind it is that these are things that we're used to and things that we're comfortable with, like religious synchronicity, where, you know, as the Christians were going through Germany, they added the Christmas tree. For us, it's very comfortable to have this person that goes off and comes back with supernatural powers or abilities, or just are more enlightened. And I think that this might have been part of the case. I think that Lucas, there was a mindset behind it that was more than just the movie. It's a fantastic movie. And I think we'll all agree Empire Strikes Back is probably the best. After that, I go number 1 or number 4.
Well, wait a minute. Before we start ranking them all, I think your point's well taken on the Joseph Campbell hero's journey thing. But then also, Lucas was also a film fan, and he knew the popularity of Westerns. He just knew it. And when you break down Star Wars simply, it's also got things that are similar to that. And he also combined it with Joseph Campbell's story. But the thing that he did that was the boldest, and Toar alluded to it, he presented something that was so meticulously designed and so well executed that we had never seen the likes of it. Again, Kubrick did it with 2001, and he did it realistically based with there's no sound in space, and everything moves sort of slowly, and everything's kind of dull and clinical and sterile. Lucas said, fuck that. I can make a Western and an opera and a Joseph Campbell story in space with noise, with explosions, with lights, with gunfire. I'm gonna have lightsaber duels. I'm gonna have sword fights, but you know, like the old samurai films from Kurosawa, but I'm gonna light them up like lasers. And it's gonna have enlightenment, and it's gonna have a sage figure, and it's gonna have, you know, the whole lost father figure thing. All of it's gonna be in there. But I'm also going to design robots and droids and alien creatures. I'm going to go full Star Trek mode on this shit. And I remember sitting there in the theater. Think about this, whether you're a 30-year-old parent or a young kid, and you sit there and that score kicks in. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly there's words, and like episode 4, A New Hope, what the hell am I watching? And there's this narrative exposition, and then you get that opening sequence, which I would argue is one of the best opening sequences in a movie ever, because you're watching this ship and you're like, oh my god, the vastness of space, and look at the size of this ship, and then that's
like a battleship,
and then it's the Star Destroyer, and it goes on. It takes up the entire friggin' screen, and if you're watching it in a decent cinema with the right sound, with that score,
there were back then,
I mean,
man.
like,
you know,
you're instantly,
there weren't multiplexes yet.
No, but still, like, you're sitting there and you're just like, I'm in for some crazy shit. And you haven't even met Han Solo and Chewie yet, and you don't for about 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, you meet Darth Vader in minute 2. And forget it. You're, as a 6-year-old, you're gripping your seat, your popcorn, you know.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
so you know, and then I think when it became sort of the boys' camp, I think Lucas, and I think it was it Mattel or Kenner? Kenner. When Kenner put out the first action figures, that's when it became not only a boy thing, because I can have dolls too, only they're cool and they come with guns.
Lightsabers.
And lightsabers, I think, and then we can get into where Lucas might have. I think at that point the cha-ching of the cash register kicked in, where toys were maybe more important than the movies, but we don't have.
How about
we can get there? Mike, I was going to say, did Mike or Jason want to weigh in here on that first movie?
I'll wait for Jason.
I think that's actually A fantastic description of the force of no pun intended. The because my experience was completely different. I don't have that. It was I was born. They came out before I was born, so I didn't have that experience. There was no transition in cinema for me. I already expect the world.
Star Wars was just there.
Exactly. I'm already entitled to it. So when people like this guy come along and just shit all over it, then I can take it personally. But it's
all right. So
yeah. So I love that perspective. Because for me it was just.
So how were you exposed to it as a kid? Were you like, so I showed my kids in the order that I saw them.
Yep.
Right. So they learned about Darth Vader in order, right? And I only did that because I'm a dork and I could control that little piece of their growing up, and I did.
That's because you're a good father, Toar. It's because you're a good father.
Experience it in the way that I did, because things are revealed that you can't just kind of hop in, or you can, but whatever.
So it's also
anyway, how'd you
beautiful to have this guy, Darth Vader, who's fucking evil. The most evil thing we knew, the ones that saw it when it came out, that the most evil thing ever. And then you come back around, and I hate on Phantom Menace, but it at the core, probably better than a lot of the movies that came out that year. Fair enough. But you get to see this growth into what he became, and you almost understand it. Like, I think it's arguable that Revenge of the Sith, or not, is it not? The third one in the prequels was a
Revenge of the Sith.
It was a pretty solid movie, honestly. And
Not
you really get to
movie.
see that.
No, not a kid's movie.
No,
I agree with that.
Well, see, that's a very interesting point. Yeah, because Lucas said, "Oh, I'm sorry, just quick because it's important there." Lucas had always said that he didn't ever want to make these not be a kid's movie.
Mm-hmm.
So with that lens, like, it kind of explains Jar Jar. Or the Ewoks.
We're not going to talk about Jar Jar.
Wait.
Ewoks.
Time out. Before we get to Jar Jar, I wanted to hear Jason tell his story about how he first got into this shit. Like, how old were you, and what was the exposure element?
Getting into it really wasn't probably until I was even 10 or later. It was mostly social for me, because even as a child, it was just no real concept of anything. I was just like, oh yeah, Ewoks, they're cute, because that's what it was. That's how old I was. So that does go into that argument of for George Lucas's intent, but it wasn't until I was probably 10, and maybe it was a little bit of the 5th, 6th grade, and then it became kids were still talking about it and playing games, and role-playing games come out, and it became a way to meet people and hang out with and socialize, and it just kind of. And then it got into the extended universe, the expanded universe, and so it just sort of snowballed from there. And so growing up with it, all of those archetypes and mythological themes were just it was built in to the mix.
Jason, what year were you born?
81.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So. Well, no. So
is that still AD, is that AD?
Whoever's recording, I'm holding in my finger. We got to get that on the beginning.
No,
is that the 20th century?
I was born in 71, and I thought Jason was a little older than he is. I apologize. I mean,
no, he's closer to Desiree.
I thought he was younger, so it's fine. Everybody's younger now. Everybody's like 12. That's all I could say. You're just 12. It doesn't matter. You're 4 years younger than me. You're 12. I'm old now. Get off of my lawn.
I think the entire series, but most importantly, those first 3 movies, I think it was like a perfect storm of what like society was looking for from their entertainment. We were looking for, again, I think Lucas, say what you will, he's pretty good with character development. I mean, American Graffiti came out before THX 1138 came out before that as well.
Yeah.
Both character-driven movies. And I think that's actually where a lot of it comes from, is that we hadn't, you know, Citizen Kane. We had movies that had character-driven plots. But like, I mean, Space Odyssey and maybe The Black Hole came out before Star Wars. Otherwise, there weren't a lot of like epic sci-fi movies. And I like that you use the term opera earlier, Jack, because I think it's more of an opera than it is a Western. Honestly, I would lean more towards like medieval times and an opera, like, you know, sword fighting, crossbows,
samurai. He was into that for sure.
I would lean, or samurai, but probably more like medieval.
Yeah, but I would say just in terms of the whole Tatooine sequence with Han Solo, Chewbacca, the cantina, that's a Western.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
mean, Han Solo is a cowboy. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a reason, like he took all the great tropes and he put them all together in a way that worked. So it like we will grab onto the one that we grab onto. You know what I mean? What's the one you like? On the sword fighting and the samurai? Is that yours, or was it, you know, the dark side? It was a Darth Vader. Oh my God, best villain for films ever. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can latch onto individually, and then societally, there aren't many that are out of it. You know, it's like it's even if you are, like, even if you hate it, Desiree, you still know who all the people are that we're talking about, though, right?
The
like
main
if I say Darth Vader, you know who Darth
Vader. I know like who Darth Vader.
You didn't pick him out of a lineup.
The fucking chick with the buns.
You saw him at the grocery store.
Sure. No, but think about that now. Someone who not just despises, hates, wants nothing to do with, but it's seeped into culture where you know who they are, and we can have a conversation where you're not a blank slate, you know?
No,
that's pretty amazing. That's before 1977, that didn't exist. And now,
well, I mean, I also happen to be married to
personality.
My husband is a fucking super start nerd, just like you guys are.
Oh, sweet. So get him in the room.
Now, do you have kids?
I do.
So
and he is not a
Leia,
Star Wars fan.
Luke, and Leia, and Chewie.
He doesn't like.
He did for a little bit, and then like he just didn't.
Okay.
I don't know. Cool. I don't know. It was weird.
It happens. It's, you know.
No, he got burned. He got burned like I did, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
So again,
wait. Let Mike chime in. Your thoughts on the Star Wars original or even the original trilogy?
The original thing. So I think I mean, as a kid, I saw it in 1977 in Winchester, Virginia. I was 5 years old. I remember walking into the theater. I don't remember seeing the movie, but I remember having seen the movie. So I mean, I just don't have an active memory of watching it, but I remember the impact on me. So
how many times did you see it?
Oh, I can't even. I mean, I was a projectionist, so I've shown it probably.
Right. No, but like as when we were little, like forget it. Like after the movie.
No, I saw it once that summer.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, my dad.
Well, it was out for over a year.
It was out for every year. My dad was in the movies. He used to take my sister and I to double features to get us out of the house. So we would go see, like, he took me to see The Road Warrior in 1981. Nice. I was like 9 years. That was very violent to go see as a 9-year-old. But anyway, so he was into going.
But nice.
He was into going to movies. But to me, the whole Star Wars thing is you have to look at Lucas. He was a baby boomer. He was into old movies when he was growing up, meaning movies from the 30s. He was into serialized things where you would go to the theater. You used to go to the theater and you'd have the main thing, but you'd have like a cartoon. You would have like what they called a two-reeler, which would be like a 10 to 14 minute short. These were like the Our Gang, Three Stooges, whatever, serialized stuff. And it would be a whole program. right? And that's why the whole expression of like, this is where I came in, because you would buy a ticket to go to a theater, you may come in the middle of the movie and you would stay there through the end of the movie, and then the program would start again. You'd see the cartoon, you'd see the two-reeler, you'd see the travel log, you'd see the war, the what do they call it? Like the, not the war film, but yeah, propaganda, whatever, you know, the film, the war reel, whatever. And then you would watch the movie, and then when it got to where you came in, you say, oh, this is where I came in. That's where the whole expression came from. So
that's great. Never knew that.
So these guys were influenced by serialized stories. And Star Wars, although the first movie, it wasn't episode 4 until in the 90s, but episode 4, it is a standalone movie, but Lucas definitely made it to be something that could continue. And what he did, and I think why it grabbed people so much, one, the first thing you see on the screen, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So this is a science fiction movie that has flying spaceships, aliens, but it took place a long time ago. So it has this mythology to it.
Sure. It's transportive immediately.
It's transport, and everything is kind of like, unlike Star Trek, where everything is clean and white and polished, Star Wars is very dirty. Things are broken. Han Solo and Chewie's probably spend half their screen time fixing the Millennium Falcon. So it had a whole other feel. It was definitely harkens back to serialized two-reelers from the 30s. Again, that these guys didn't grow up with, or radio programs. So they didn't even grow up with it. They were seeing it secondhand. These guys got into this stuff in college. I mean, a lot of them went to film school in like Southern California. Together. They were exposed to this stuff in their 20s. And, I mean, again, so Lucas made this film. It was so influential. He was really just consolidating stuff that was that was important to him. I think as a kid, I mean, I was 5 when I went to see it. I liked it a lot. I think the fact that it hit on so many different things. So Spielberg had released Jaws the year before. Jaws was the first, what we call now, blockbusters, where you had Happy Meals and you couldn't get away from it, and it was played in the theater for like a year and a half, and it was huge. I mean, that never happened before. Jaws. And Star Wars came in right behind that. So you had that whole element to it. You had the whole mythos part to it. You had the fact that it was a cultural phenomenon. I mean, the marketing for this thing was crazy. You couldn't turn around and not be exposed to it. It was everywhere. There were commercials for the toys. There were underoos. There were, underoos. Blankets. Just like now, like anything you could trademark, Lucas did. And
that's the most important part of that is Lucas did it.
Well, that was the other thing that was unusual. He maintained ownership. That was unusual at the time. Star Wars is not a studio movie. Star Wars is an independent film. Lucas kept all of the rights to it, and that was very unusual at the time. Anyway, as a 5-year-old, for me, what I remember is I went to see it. I liked it. I'm not going to look back and be like, oh, it's the best thing I ever saw. I mean, it was the first movie that I ever saw in a theater. I mean, I had been exposed to films before that. It's the first one I remember seeing in a theater, and from talking to my parents, I think it's the first one I did see in a theater. To me, it was like when I went to school the following September, and so I was going into first grade, I guess, after the summer of 77, everyone was talking about it. People had the lunch boxes, they had the backpacks, they had the shirts. I mean, I look back, the cards, with the stickers.
We're talking We're talking like the 10 lunch boxes.
It just littered everything. I mean, when I look back at like when I turned 6, which would have been like 1978, whatever, like 2 of the kids in the picture from my birthday party have Star Wars shirts on, man. It hadn't even been out a year yet. So it was just everywhere. And I think that's why we kind of hold on to it. The other thing, and I'll jump off this in a second. There's so many points that were unusual for this. He used practical effects, and they were amazing. The whole fact that it has these World War II connections from aesthetically, like the Empire kind of looking like, Nazi Germany and stuff like that. So you had when my mom took me to see this, she was 32 years old, right? So she was born in 45. So there is definitely from the Empire side of this. I mean, you can't get away from it. If you're of that age and you're a baby boomer or you're older, say you're like in your 50s in the late 70s, and you're seeing Darth Vader and the Death Star and the Empire, it's Nazi Germany, man. Like without question. That's totally what it's referencing. So it had all these little cultural, touchstones to it. And
I think it was a perfect time.
And it was well done. It was well done. It's a great movie.
Far enough after World War II, but World War II still resonated. Our parents, their parents were talking about the Nazis and the good fight and all these things. And I think it was just culturally, it was just a phenomenon. It will happen again probably. Well, but not anytime soon.
I'd say that it has, quite honestly.
Harry Potter.
Well, the last thing,
Potter, absolutely. Yeah.
The last thing, real quick,
just
the last thing to throw in there, and I think the other thing, again, you've got
Lord of the Rings was written in 1950. Desiree,
what it harkens back to.
Also, I've never seen that.
Well, that's good. We can agree on that. What it harkens back to.
Desiree, all of us except Jason have had children and had sex with women.
What?
So, no, I'm saying we're nerds.
Oh, so yeah. I think the other thing is it created, unlike a lot of other movies or any other thing at the time, Lucas created it was a very rich palette. It was a whole world. Star Wars Episode 4 is a story that takes place in this universe a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And he created rules. He created a history. He created a mythos. He created he created a whole universe, and that's why it survives to today. And that's why you can come out with an amazing television show like The Mandalorian that just plugs into that and can go, because we all know that world. He created a whole world. It's not just the movie, and that was what was so revolutionary, in my opinion.
No, that nails it, Mike. That's spot on.
And the brilliance of The Mandalorian not being Boba Fett. Now, granted, they did do a Boba Fett series, which wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't bad either.
The brilliance on. Jesus Christ, right? Good job.
Sorry.
He's got to keep his fucking helmet on, Boba Fett. The whole point of it was he didn't take his helmet off. He's got his helmet off in the whole goddamn show.
It was Mandalorian 2.5, man.
Yeah, no,
I thought it was good. I thought it was a decent show. But the point is that they brought in a Mandalorian and they gave a new mythos to the Mandalorian. And
wait, you guys you're jumping the gun, but back to Boba Fett, because we touched on the toys, right? We touched on the toys.
Oh, this is great.
Now, am I the only one?
What's Boba Fett?
Am I the only one who's
Is that the Blob character?
No,
that's Jabba.
No,
okay.
Am I the only one whose favorite action figure in the 80s was Boba Fett?
No, I was Luke.
No, he was awesome, man.
I have a theory as to why, Jack. Do you know why that's your favorite? Do you have a reason?
Holy crap. Yeah, man.
I do too.
You know why? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I liked the armor. I loved the outfit. I thought it was a cool costume. I liked
rocket on the back.
I liked the ship, which I know the name of, and I know you do too, Toar.
Of course.
What was it? Slaver 1 or something?
Close. Slave 1. Slave 1.
Good. Slave 1. Okay.
And I liked the fact that he just went in, had almost no lines, got Han Solo like he was supposed to, and got the fuck out of there.
He's a working man.
He's a working guy.
Well, I don't think it's a coincidence that, so you talk about Lucas and marketing and the toys and genius. Before Empire Strikes Back came out, they teased one action figure that they were going to release before the movie came out, and it was Boba Fett.
Wow.
And we had no idea who, where, what he was going to do, but you had him and you could play with him, and you certainly, or even better, you could aspire to have him. So now all of a sudden, that's the guy that you're looking at for the movie. And you're right, he says nothing, but he's the coolest guy in the movie. You know,
he's a Western character.
He walks away with the previous coolest guy in the movie. You know what I mean? In Carbonite. So he's totally cool. But the marketing of it certainly has something to play into it. Has to, right?
Well, if you know, look, 1980, I'm 9 years old. So you are probably correct. They probably marketed the shit out of Boba Fett to me, and I have no recollection other than being in love with the action figure and all things Boba Fett. I know I was Boba Fett for Halloween at some point because you know, there's no doubt in my mind. And we already covered the Halloween costumes of our youth with the rubber string and the plastic that would cut into the side of your head.
Okay, my dad, right, was a high school art teacher, and he was a coach, so he had access to all the old football helmets and everything. What he would do do you remember donkey basketball games? Is that something that was nationwide, or something that donkey basketball games? Literally, our guy comes in with 12 donkeys, 2 teams ride around on the basketball court and try to shoot them in.
It's like polo.
Yeah, but on a basketball court, and the donkey shit all over. But they
didn't have that in Baltimore.
Costumes,
not in Hoboken.
They play the juniors versus seniors, whatever. My dad made all these elaborate costumes. So as kids, he did the same thing for us. So Hammerhead, right? Hammerhead, I had a football helmet that he put a manila envelope in the front so I could see out the mouth. Then he did sculpted styrofoam up, so his head was huge.
Yeah, man.
So I'm this little kid that's actually like 6'2" with the thing on, you know.
Wow.
It was awesome. It was just so cool. Like, so
Hammerhead was awesome.
I had the exact opposite of the string in the thing. My dad was always like, "Oh, dude, who do you want to be?" And I was like, "I want to be Han Solo." No, he doesn't have a mask.
That's great. Yeah, Father of the Year award right there. Jesus.
That was great.
That's fantastic. But no, I mean, just going back to the movies, like we talked about Star Wars. My biggest Empire Strikes Back, which is 1980, so I'm 9. I remember I was already like into comic books to some extent, like I was starting to get into it. And I remember, I think it was Marvel. They released like a novelization, a comic book of Empire Strikes Back.
Wow.
And I think
that's what
No, my memory of it is they released it either before the movie came out or before I had a chance to see the movie, because at that point, selling out constantly, right? So maybe I didn't see it opening weekend. I don't know. But I read the comic book first, which was a huge fucking mistake.
Oh, God. Yeah. Awful.
Oh, you got the reveal. I got the reveal, and it was a page-turning reveal, so there was some suspense as I turned a page as a 9-year-old kid reading this great comic book, and I couldn't wait for the movie. But I remember knowing the big reveal already because of the comic book. Like I'll never forget that dark knowledge. Wow. And you were like the only one in the theater, probably, man.
Yeah, I know. And I still get chills when I think about watching that scene because it's so fucking amazing. But, you know, I do remember the comic book sitting on my couch at our old house and being like, holy crap. And I remember I wanted to tell my dad, I was like, Dad, you're not going to believe there's this. And he's like, I don't want to hear it because he was super into it.
What's the reveal?
That was if you don't know.
Spoiler alert.
If I don't know, I don't know. Okay.
42-year-old spoiler alert. Darth Vader is Luke's dad.
Oh, that's the famous. Okay, hold on though. Pause, everyone. The whole debacle against Luke, I am your father, or no, I am your father. What did he say?
He doesn't say.
What did he say?
He doesn't say Luke.
No, he doesn't say Luke.
He says no, I am your father.
He's answering the question.
I think.
Okay.
Look, there's different things, and I've talked to people from different ages, and like like Desiree, who's like, I have no interest in this. I also have friends that are in their like mid to late 60s that also have no interest in Star Wars because it was like they were too old, you know. But there is an interesting thing. Like when I saw Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, I identified with Luke, but there were kids that were teenagers, like in high school, and like Han Solo was like the big dude, or you know, maybe there were kids my age that liked Han Solo. I don't know. I liked Luke, and Darth Vader was like the most. Like I used to watch monster features, you know, on like Channel 45 in Baltimore, like creature feature stuff from like the 50s and 60s. So that was like the bad guys, but they were whatever dudes in rubber suits. When I saw Darth Vader, he scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then in Empire, like I identify with Luke, and to have this guy who is all shiny and black and creepy and amazing, and then he's like has this familial fatherly relation with the character that you're identifying with as a kid. It was was fucking shocking. It was shocking. I mean, I don't think you can over exaggerate how crazy. I came out of that theater, my jaw was on the floor.
Oh yeah. Hey Mike, were you a blonde little kid?
Psychologically too.
Were you a blonde little kid? Sorry.
No, I had dark hair. Dark hair.
Yeah, I couldn't be Luke Skywalker on the playground because I had dark hair, and my friend wanted to be Luke Skywalker all the time, and he said, "You can't be Han Solo. You can't be Luke Skywalker because he doesn't have dark. He has dark hair."
In Star Wars, he's playing with toys, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Oh, you know, well, that too. You didn't play act with running around with swords and like.
Yeah. I'm just saying that was like shocking. That was an amazing moment.
No, you're right, Mike. And also, just as somebody, if you've got sort of if you grow up with a dad that has issues and you have some issues psychologically with your own father, as I did, the fact that this evil guy could be your dad and he's also loving and trying to you know what I mean? Like I was just like, oh, this is heavy shit. There's a lot going on here psychologically. Like if you've got some dad
dude, in 1980 on the heels of Kramer versus Kramer too, right? Same year. Good God.
Yeah.
Totally changes the way you view cinema.
I didn't kill your father. I'm your father. And his no was like epic. Like
and then also, did you believe it? Because he says Obi-Wan lied to you, and at that point Obi-Wan is like Jesus or God.
But he did lie.
He totally lied.
He lied. Darth Vader's telling the truth.
Yeah, but I mean, as a little kid, like that, you have to digest that too. That the guy that you thought was.
I think the beauty of it is he didn't kill his father. Nobody killed his father. His father transformed metaphysical
Darth Vader.
Well, the old father is no longer.
Obi-Wan was being clever. He was being clever.
I got something. I want to hear Jason say something to continue, but I do have to say one thing for Desiree and other people that may be watching that are like, Star Wars. Listen, in 1977, 1980, 1983, again, there was a lot of ads. There were figures. It was not like it is now. It is crazy go nuts now with the marketing. I mean, the marketing was big, but as a kid, Star Wars figures, if you went to KB Toys, which in Baltimore was like the store that was in all the malls, Star Wars figures were 99 cents. New, not on clearance. Like when they would come out, they were 99 cents. And we used to go to the mall every Friday. And to shut me up, sometimes my parents would give me like $1 or whatever. And I would go pick out a Star Wars figure. It was like, once every 2 or 3 weeks I'd get one. Like for birthday parties, I would like give a Star Wars figure to my friend. I mean, they were not expensive. They were readily available. But it wasn't like now. You didn't have the social media where everything was saturated and was like over the top. I mean, I love Star Wars figures, but I also like the 3.5-inch G.I. Joe figures. I also played with trains. I also loved Legos, and I would play them all together. Like I would have Chewbacca fight Cobra Commander, like whatever. Everybody like worked together, whatever. It wasn't as crazy over the top commercialized as it is now. It was the very, very beginning of it. But anyway, Jason, what I mean, when you said that you got into it and you were like all into like Jedi, was that the first one you saw, and then you had to go see the other ones in reverse order, or?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact order. I'm fairly certain that the first one that I did see was Return of the Jedi, but I was tiny at
Yeah,
the time.
yeah.
And I don't really have any clear memories of the progression of events. I'm pretty sure it was fairly chronological.
I would guess that you had to see them on VHS.
Yeah.
Would be
Yeah.
right. So, like, just thinking about how you would have seen them, like the other thing that happened in the 1980 or thereabouts was HBO, right? So once HBO happened, like we were one of the first places. We were in New York, so one of the first places to get it had HBO. Yep, I saw Star Wars like 300 times.
Did they?
Oh my
They
God.
did show it on HBO. I didn't
What,
know
sorry?
that. They showed that on HBO.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I did not know
Oh,
that.
dude, forget it. HBO's first slate was like had Jaws running like 8 times a month, right? Like, so
Right.
forget it. I saw Jaws a million times every time Star Wars was on. But anyway, Jason, what I'm saying is, the way that you saw them probably was you could have seen them, picked it up, clicking through. We're not recording anything, right? So you probably were destinationed, right? Oh no, let's watch Star Wars, and you're going to watch them in progression. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So you were given that by somebody, older sibling, parents, right?
Yep.
So, but like it's weird
strange man next door.
Yeah, it could be whatever you like.
Strange guy lurked over the fence.
That can be episode 104. Yeah, I mean, the way that it touched us culturally, again, it didn't exist, and then it was there for you. It's always there. You know, it's like,
yeah, there was I probably knew it through merchandise first. Kids were playing with toys, and then it was like, what's the origin of these toys that are everywhere? Oh, it's from these movies that were already out for years. So it's highly likely that I even knew the story just by virtue of playing with other kids before seeing the movies.
Word of mouth.
I don't, because I don't
Yeah.
have a clear memory of the "I am your father" reveal. So it may have been spoiled for me at that point.
It just always was.
Yeah, and it became something for me because of those timeless themes and really the spirituality of it.
Yes.
I mean,
That's great. I love that you got there. Yep.
Empire. That's got to be one of my favorite lines I've ever heard. Luminous beings are we not this crude matter? Are you kidding me?
What is the line?
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
From Obiwan?
From Yoda.
Oh, Yoda.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's fantastic.
We didn't even
Fantastic.
talk about Yoda yet. Yoda, epic.
Yeah, and it just that whole. So as far as Empire, I mean that's what I remember most about earlier on in Empire is Luke going to Dagobah and training with Yoda, and it's just, and he's getting challenged physically, he's getting challenged mentally, he's getting challenged spiritually, and in some weird little way that's I don't know why that appealed to me, and kind of that's kind of been my life. I've been in martial arts since shortly after that, and I didn't even notice until years later studying Buddhism that that's
in there.
Yeah, no,
right?
We talked about all
from everybody.
we talked about all the things that Lucas threw into the movie, but it's not lost on people, I would think, now that have digested these movies. Lucas was heavily influenced, or wanted to heavily influence the audience with these Eastern philosophies of being passive and meditative and finding strength from within. Like, it's not like he's pushing, Catholicism on the, he's pushing these Eastern ideas.
Yeah.
And,
Mysticism. It's that's along the Joseph Campbell line of like I'm sorry for interrupting, Jack, but one thought I want to get out is the beauty of what they did was, first of all, you have all these different protagonists that are different types of characters. Yoda's the old samurai that teaches the young samurai. Han Solo is cowboy / pirate, swashbuckler.
reluctant
Leia,
hero too.
Yeah, reluctant
Leia
hero.
was probably one of the biggest female protagonists in movies up to that point. She was kind of badass. She could shoot a gun. I mean, what is it she says when Luke walks into the cell? Kind of young for a stormtrooper, aren't you?
Kind of
She was
short.
just-
Kind of short.
Yeah, kind of short. Kind of short for a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I mean, she was badass from go.
Yeah,
And
she
you
pretty
didn't-
much tells Vader to go F himself. I mean,
Yeah.
She stands up
Yeah,
to
I
him,
mean,
which is pretty amazing. Yeah.
But it was the brilliance was in the palette that you were allowed to pull from. Like, I was a Luke guy. Of course, everybody liked Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett's a given. Everybody liked Boba Fett. He was mysterious. He didn't say a lot. He caught Han Solo, who next to Luke is probably one of the more favorite characters. Like, he was a mythical creature that was in the middle of all this. Are we going to see him later? Blah, blah, blah. But I think that's where a lot of the beauty of the films comes from, is that you could pick your favorite type of character. You could pick the brute that is Chewbacca. You could pick Leia. You could pick Luke. You could pick Yoda. Yeah, you could have a favorite, and you could legitimize it with how he built those characters into the movie. Yoda was amazing. We all know, try not, there is no try, only do or do not. Like, we use that thought process in, like, or maybe not daily, but
Yeah.
it
Do or do not. There is no try.
Well,
Yeah.
ideally, you want to to be a better person. Like the stuff that's preached in these movies by the Jedi and by Yoda, etc. It would make you a more complete, better person, and I that's why they are who they are. Everybody else is fallen. The villains. Even Vader is revealed to be a very human character when we first meet him. Like Mike says, he's like the devil. I mean, like, is he a robot? Is he a person? He's killing all these guys. He's torturing people. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know what's going on with him. And then it turns out, oh, he's a person that fell, like a Lucifer figure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he fell from grace. And, and then of course we get to that story I don't know. We talked about being Gen Xers, being born in the 70s, and the phenomenon that we grew up with. Like, it wasn't just a fucking movie. Like, this was a child lifestyle. Now, when you fast forward to 1999, okay, now think about it. Those kids, those little rascals from 1977, now in 1999, what am I?
have kids.
I'm 28 years old. It's the 90s. You're drinking, you're partying, you've grown up, right? And suddenly Lucas is going to make these prequels to Star Wars. And I remember being really excited, even at that age, you know what I mean? Like, we all were. You had to be pumped. Like, Lucas was making another Star Wars movie after, 15, 16 years.
Yeah. We were all like 27, 28.
Yeah,
I mean, not all, but
Yep.
Yeah,
And at that point,
we're moviegoers, right? Like, you take your girlfriend to the movies, you go see the new Scorsese, or you go see this or that, and that little kid in all of us, I think, kind of got excited. Like, this is episode 1. This is the beginning.
I'm sorry.
No, I just remember, like, we had a friend of ours, we made him wait, and back in the day, kids, if you wanted tickets to the opening weekend, you had to go wait in line during the day there was no
Sometimes the night
Fandango.
before.
Not online.
No, you
We
couldn't
were
just
talking
grab your
tents and
phone.
lawn chairs.
So we had this
Concert tickets. Yeah.
we had this kid who was like this guy who was a drummer in a band, and he was all tatted up, and he was this big dude, and he had a flat top. Remember Jason Zeus? I think you met Jason.
I believe so, yeah.
We had him go wait all day, and he hated us because he wasn't into Star Wars. And he's
Well, he's
like
the drummer. You always beat on the drummer.
no, right. And so he's like, and there were all these people in costumes. Do you remember the costumes when they were promoting Phantom Menace?
They still do that.
I mean, so this poor guy had to sit out there for like 3 hours
With all these nerds.
to get us 10 tickets. And we made an event of it. We all drank, and if you smoked weed, you just smoked first, and
Whatever.
and then we all went. As you know, we didn't have kids yet. We were still kids, but we were in our 20s, and it was fun. And then the movie. That's all I'll say. I'm going to pass it to Mike.
I think
Mike's
we
waiting
can
to
start
say
building on the prequels now, because I mean, considering time, yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, Metachlorian's kind of annoying, but the first movie was pretty okay. Again, based on all the other movies that were probably out that year, Phantom Menace was not bad. You had the pod racers, you had Qui-Gon, you had
Darth Maul.
You had what's his name? Ewan McGregor was born to play young Ben. He was the best recasting that they did.
No, he's a good actor. What were you going to say, Mike?
No, I was going to say, before we get to the prequels, and I'm only saying this because I have a little bit of a unique perspective on this. Well, one, I'll just say Phantom Menace, I'm not a big fan of the film. It had the best teaser poster I have ever seen in my life. And I worked in theaters for 25 years. It was the kid, I can't remember his name, standing in front of like a little
his name was Anakin, you boob.
I know, but the actor standing in front of this little like Tatooine house or whatever, and the sun was coming, and his shadow that was being cast on the wall behind him was Vader. So he was like a little kid, but his shadow was Vader on the wall. I thought that was like amazing. Anyway, so I worked in movie theaters a lot through my high school and college years. And in 1997, Lucasfilm released Star Wars Empire and Jedi in February and March of 1997.
With the extra parts.
On the big screen, right, with all the extra parts. And the preview for the trilogy, the catch line for it, which I thought was amazing, because the preview, we had a 40-foot screen at the theater I worked at, and you would start the projector, and like it had this little tiny box in the middle of the screen, like a TV.
You've only seen Star Wars like
it's like, if you've seen Star Wars, this is probably the only way you've ever seen it. And then like the Xwing comes out and it fills up the whole screen and like takes off. And at the end it says, "See it again for the first time," which was like, and for me, I even as a projectionist, I had seen Star Wars and Empire and Jedi when they came out in the theater, but you didn't see them in the theaters, and I didn't have HBO. And so I'd seen these movies on VHS. I had not seen them in a theater since I was a little kid. Yeah, so that was a huge attraction. And when the theater I worked at, it held about 1,200 people. It was a single screen historic theater built in 1939. And we would hold about 1,200 people, and we sold out every show for like 2 months. Like all throughout every, doesn't matter what time of day it was. We showed Star Wars overnight, round the clock, through the entire weekend, continually. Every 3 hours we had a show, and we sold every one of them out. But my point is, at the time, I remember having discussions with friends of mine and this older man who's in his 60s, who was like the head projectionist. And the people that were coming were people that were like our age. Like Jack was saying, these were people in their late 20s. There were some people that were in their early 30s or late 20s bringing little kids, but it was primarily the people that were little kids when it first came out. And I thought that was very interesting, and that I think that really plagued the prequels, because Lucas had an unwinnable hand. He created the first three movies, and they were for kids, and those kids were us, and we loved it. But after that, people remember when people were like, "Oh, we want things to be darker." Like, I mean, Revenge of the Sith. Like, oh, we want to see Vader like chop someone's head off. Whatever. I don't remember But my point is, we all wanted it to be darker. And Lucas made the trilogy movies, the three of them, and they were kids' movies. And I think that's why people were so, until it got to Sith, people were like, because we wanted more. And that's Star Wars is always a kids' movie. But with the re-release in 97 and the prequels, it was this, you had the kids, but then you had people that were our age. And I think that was, I think that was an unwinnable thing for him. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Only if it's true that Lucas made the original trilogy just for kids, which I find hard to believe, because you can look back at them and they seem like, okay, kids, he marketed the toys and the costumes and the funky aliens. Like, that was a kid cash cow, no doubt about it. Everybody had to buy the figures. But when you watch those original three, like the themes that Jason brought up about Yoda, okay, and about what it would mean to become better than yourself, like everything that he preaches on Dagobah, and the relationship.
Are kids confirmed in the Catholic Church, Jack, when they're 12?
No, I don't mean that. I mean in 1977. In 1977, I'm 6, and then I'm 9, and then I'm 11 or 12 when the third one comes out. I'm just saying, as a grown-up, I can watch those original trilogy movies and think they're for adults too.
Yeah.
I don't think I think I might have misspoke. The quote that I saw was for Andor, which was the most recent.
That was great.
Really
good.
And they said, the article said that this was the first series that explicitly went away from Lucas's ideal that movies should always be for 12-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not exclusively, and I'm not quoting that exactly right, but it's basically what it was is he didn't want a rated R Star Wars line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that changes how you deal with things when you're making movies, because you have to follow certain rules when you're PG-13 versus PG. And
I'm just saying, I think he had an unwinnable thing. I think the OG fans wanted something, and I'm not saying now, but I'm saying in 97, people wanted blood. People wanted like
Quentin Tarantino,
man. I mean, that's what they were expecting. And Phantom Menace was a Saturday morning cartoon, and that's why people didn't like it.
Something else that had happened though in the pop culture, and Jason, I think you can maybe even speak to this a little bit because you brought it up earlier, was the extended universe. So the extended universe started. Timothy Zahn's novel was 93.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, we had the second best villain ever in Grand Admiral Thrawn. And like, this is what we have been introduced
to. And they've
given us Mara Jade, and they've given us all of these great characters and that have backstory, They could have found a way to get away from Jar Jar.
Yeah, well, no, but again, I think the Timothy Zahn stuff, because I read the first book, I forget what it was called, you probably know, but those were like legit sequels to Return of the Jedi.
Absolutely.
And I think Lucas said, I'm going to tell the story of how Darth Vader came to be Darth Vader. And
of course. So but what I'm saying is that the universe was, it got even darker than the movies.
Oh, sure.
Like the people that were into it, like if you knew about the extended universe and you read the Thrawn novels, like it's certainly not for kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I say that that's not what I want to do. But a 12-year-old could read that.
Right.
And get it and not be, it's not blood and gore and guts like a Tarantino movie. You know what I mean? That's where he wanted to draw the line. That's why I think all of those movies had to have that undercurrent of don't forget it's for kids. Now, when I go to the movies, if a movie is like that, I have no problem becoming 12 again. Like I can talk about it as a film. I'm an editor. Like this is where it's like
So
No, I totally I agree with both of you guys. I mean, like definitely that there was edgier material for Star Wars people that had already adapted to that. And then to Mike's point, that was who we were. The darker stuff was more the speed of the times and what we were into, like, Cape Fear and Hannibal Lecter and shit like that. And these were movies clearly for kids, but we didn't go into
more of a purity.
but but still, the kid in us loved Star Wars when we were in our 20s, and we went to go see these movies. And whether it's because they were just made for kids or whatever, we had every right to be righteously disappointed.
Sure.
And feel like I could Phantom Menace, I was disappointed from the opening shot, the opening like narrative, and then meeting the Trade Federation. Like I was already instantly bored.
Yeah.
Instantly. But at least I had Darth Maul, I had the John Williams score, I had Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor. Like there was shit that I could get behind. I will tell you that Attack of the Clones is one of the only movies that I ever fell asleep in the theater.
It's horrible.
Twice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I tried a second time, and I was like, I can't.
I've got a question for Jason, but first I got to just let you guys. One of the most amazing things I ever saw as a projectionist, and I have a lot of memories of looking out a porthole. But when we showed in March of '97 at the Senator in Baltimore, we had David Prowse, he was in the Darth Vader suit for the original trilogy.
No, he was Darth Vader. Right?
He was Darth Vader.
There's also Chewbacca.
No, Peter Mayhew was Chewbacca.
That was Peter Mayhew.
But
you're right.
He showed up at the theater, help publicize it or whatever, and we had people unpaid, like people that were just from Baltimore that were fans, showing up in like accurate looking stormtrooper outfits. I think we had like 6 of them. And before the movie started, the owner of the theater would like make some announcements, and like David Prowse came down with a phalanx of people in stormtrooper outfits going down the aisle, awesome. Right? And it's like, I'm like, that's not for 12-year-olds, man. I mean, people in the audience were losing. I mean, I was losing my mind. I mean, I was like, this is amazing. I can't believe that's Darth Vader. Like, I'm about to start this movie on this, and that's the dude. And there's like people dressed in stormtrooper outfits. So, I mean, there was a lot of nostalgia. I think the Phantom Menace, and I'm not a fan of Phantom Menace, and I'm not a fan of clones. I do like Revenge of the Sith, but I recognize that I am not the one. Like, I can't give a fair review to Menace and Clones. I just can't, because it's not made for me, and that's fine. It's okay. It's totally okay.
But don't you also think it's not entirely made for kids? Because Phantom Menace is just boring if you're a kid. It's boring.
There's too much.
There's nothing happening. It's
too much dialogue.
You can say that, but dude, the pod racing scene.
The pod racing scene was great.
Was awesome.
I thought that was great.
The lightsaber duel between Obiwan and
that's the best part of the movie.
Liam Neeson and Darth Maul was freaking awesome.
No,
right?
It's my favorite duel.
Strong points.
There are awesome moments. The score
I gotta jump.
Phenomenal. The John Williams again. How do you take Star Wars, which is so iconic musically? It is an opera. And do something new.
Door of the Fates, man. That's a great song.
God, awesome.
So real quick, and I'm going to jump out, but Jason, I really want to get your perspective on the original, or on the prequels. What's your view? What's your take? Because you were definitely old enough by then.
Yeah, it's still similar to yours. We're getting closer there. I don't disagree really with anything any of you have said. I saw Phantom Menace many times in the theater, but it was deliberate. It was at that point I was deliberately trying to support it, even though I
You
was
wanted it to
not
be great.
correct.
Maybe if I
Correct.
watch it again, it'll change.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I wanted it to continue at that point. I was hooked. And I was forcing myself to try to find those elements, and it did, it did rise and fall, and I think I ended up pretty much more favorable than not, even though all of the hate still is deserved. It was interesting to see people started reevaluating those elements after the sequel trilogy. People seem to come right back to the prequels and at least appreciate what he was trying to do.
Yep.
If not being very successful at it. So yeah, I think
I mean,
we're right
All
there.
right, well, wait. I don't know how much time we have left, so I don't know. Jason's got a picture of somebody back there. We might. We might want to touch on the last 3 Star Wars movies and how people feel about, because I guess it was 2015 when J.J. Abrams had the production and Lucas had already sold off his product, and it was J.J. and Disney that released Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And at that point, we're all at that 2015. I've already got all 4 of my kids. I know how I saw it. I brought the whole brood, to the theater. They'd already seen the others. What were people's reactions or takes on The Force Awakens and the J.J. Abrams approach? What about you, Jason, since you got the picture there?
I equate the two currently, right? I think that was one of the most brilliant critiques I heard is J.J. Abrams is now Jar Jar Abrams. But actually, after seeing Episode 7, I was hopeful, and I didn't blame him until Ruin Johnson came along, and then. And then there were more details about how there was rumors about who was responsible. And clearly, they both are.
I think they did wrong by changing directors. If you're gonna in an epic kind of film like these, you really need to maintain continuity with your storyteller, and I think that's where that fell short. Because
there was no story.
Yeah, they
didn't have a story for the.
It was a fan film send up of the original trilogy, and it was a fantastic movie, but it didn't advance the ball.
Force Awakens was a remake of Star Wars.
Yes, it was a remake.
It was a fan. It was a fan movie.
It wasn't bad. It was.
No, I loved it.
I was hopeful.
It introduced Rey. That was all it did.
Rey was great.
The Force Awakens I actually thought was a fun going to see it with my kids, having it feel so much like the 77 debut as far as the story. I kind of thought, okay, I get what they're doing. This is the new generation of Star Wars. Lucas did it right with the first episode or episode 4 or whatever. We're going to do the same story, but we're going to bring back Leia and we're going to bring back Han Solo, and where's Luke? And we're going to set that up. Where's Luke Skywalker? Let's set that up for the next movie, and he'll be the next Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's so funny that the first 3, the first one was great, but it led to the second, which by a lot of people's standards is still one of the greatest of all the Star Wars movies. Empire Strikes Back, everybody loves.
Yeah, no, we talked about that. Yeah. And
then in the prequels, the first 2, or the first and the third were definitely, I love Revenge of the Sith. I will hold strong on that being a great movie. And the first one I didn't hate, but the second one sucked. And then you go to the third portion of the series. First one's pretty good. Second one sucks. And then the third one is meh. It's not bad. But it's funny how the second one was the greatest one in the first iteration, and then they flipped it on the last 2. I don't know. It's just something I noticed that the second portion of the second and third portion of the Star Wars movies stunk on ice. Like Attack of the Clones, can we all agree?
That was the worst.
Movie?
That was the worst.
Hands down. They had a fucking Jedi robot. Done. I was done at that point. And Yoda bouncing around like a fucking pinball. It was just. It
no
was
pinball
ridiculous.
Yoda. Pinball
And who
Yoda?
was the bad Jedi in the second movie? Because the actor is
Dooku.
Well, what was his
Christopher Lee, dude.
Christopher Lee.
His
yes.
autobiography is called Tall, Dark, and Gruesome, which is one of the best names for it.
Wasn't he Sauron in Lord of the Rings? Like the guy is got
so.
legit.
No, he's amazing, dude.
No, he's a great actor.
That was way back.
He couldn't save that.
He's Dracula. He's Dracula.
Right. And the third series, the third movie wasn't that great. I did like the Kylo turning good. They did a very good slow roll into him becoming better.
If Adam Driver did not win that role, it would have sucked. He sold it. I don't think if that was someone else, I don't think it would have been as well. But I have one thought. I think that Desiree needs to pick the topic for next week because I want to, like, I don't know. I'm looking at her. She's thinking, like, what's going on.
Well, she said she
Well,
hold on. Let me read this memo that my husband gave me to read. Okay.
Okay. Good.
All right.
Maybe that's what I'm picking up on. All right.
Okay. It says from the desk of Craig Allen Harms, Star Wars films. There's 7 films here listed in order of the best from his top 7 favorites.
Okay.
Listed in order. Number 1, Rogue One. Number 2, Episode 4, A New Hope. 3, Star Wars, The Force Awakens. 4, The Empire Strikes Back. 5, Return of the Jedi. 6, Star Wars, A Solo Story. 7, Episode 1. The rest are plainly horrible. Han shot first. Sincerely, Craig Allen Harms.
Love it. Thank you.
I like his inclusion of Rogue One. I think that is that was a fantastic movie.
It's a great movie.
Well, I think that's an important point here too, is that it's really hard to, like, it's easy to say, oh, I didn't like this movie, I like that one. But at the same time, it's really hard to disassociate them from what's happened since. Because now we've got, 3 series, we have hours and hours of Star Wars material now. Whereas as we kept building this, we had after the first movie, we didn't know if he was going to do a sequel.
Well, right. And Toar, just to that point, if you look at the prequels and then the original 3, Lucas was smart. It took 3 years to come out between each movie, right? What Disney did was they saturated the shit out of the market. Force Awakens 2015, Rogue One 2016, Last Jedi 17, Rise of Skywalker 19. It was and then you have the Disney shows. It's just
but that's the thing. The shows are way more successful, but that's how
it's a serial.
Desiree's generation.
They're making serials. They're making serials, and every episode is practically a great movie. Yeah, Andor is
awesome.
Andor is art, man.
I've heard.
Andor is a fucking Western like you read about. In Rogue One, I was trying to think of the name. I couldn't remember it for whatever. But that movie was so amazing that I got like 98% through the movie, and I go, oh shit, they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
I got so wrapped up in these characters and their loyalty to like the mythos and all that I forgot that these were
the Boffins
that Leia was talking about dying
in the first movie.
Yeah.
It was so like whoever directed it is a genius. Because
Wait, can I just ask, does Craig really have Han Solo a solo story or
Ahead of Jedi?
I like that movie too though.
No. 5, Return of the Jedi.
I said
6,
Solo shot first.
Star Wars, A Solo Story. 7, Episode 1. The rest are plainly horrible. Han shot first.
It's arguable. I mean, it's defensible. I have one thing.
Whatever that means.
I'm not going to say anything else the rest of this podcast. So I know we got to go, but I have to say this. I do have to say this, just for some perspective. So last May, my daughter turned 7. And not from me. This didn't come from me. I'm not like a special pleader for Star Wars or anything. She wanted to have a Star Wars themed birthday party. Now Zeus came to this party
You motherfucker.
with his sons. We took pool noodles and duct tape and made lightsabers for everyone. So there's like 20 kids with these lightsabers, like beating the holy crap out of everybody. Star Wars cake, Star Wars cupcakes.
Nice.
My point is, for whatever reason, and this wasn't from me, I didn't put this in. It just came out of the culture, right? She's 7. She was born in 2015.
You can go to Pottery Barn and get Star Wars things.
And she wanted a Star Wars birthday. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying it is. It's in the culture.
Well, you know what she's seeing right about that time, right? Probably more or less is even if you didn't show it to her, lots of marketing of Rey.
Yeah,
Which has
probably
to be a pretty big influence, right?
Yeah, no, she's picking it up somewhere. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Even at the
that's
time, I was like, "Wow, I can't believe this."
Well,
we still have the lightsabers.
Well, should we wait for Zeus or?
I have one other thing to say.
Yeah,
Darth Vader and Mufasa, same person.
Yes.
I didn't know that until like literally 3 years ago.
James Earl Jones.
You're shitting me. Knew he sounded familiar.
Jones, man. Yeah, James Earl Jones.
And
that's right.
I think my last maybe contribution or a question, since you mentioned the effect that Darth Vader had initially when you were a child seeing him for the first time. In Rogue One, at the very end,
he is pretty awesome.
When you know it's coming.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
What comes at the end of Rogue One?
Oh, you got to watch it.
No, I'm not.
No, Darth Vader is just badass.
Darth Vader Darth Vader is his most Darth Vader-y.
Well, have you guys seen the fan film of Obiwan and Darth Vader's lightsaber battle?
No, from Obi-Wan Kenobi.
From episode 4. Have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh, see, no. I mean, we should.
You're hardcore, Toar. You're looking at fan films, fan made.
No, dude. So, come on. The Twitter feeds stuff gets put in front of me. I'm a consumer of media, but I'll send this to
I'm a consumer
you guys
media
to watch. It's awesome.
Yeah, Toar, email me, and then we'll get the link up on the episode. That'd be cool, man.
Yeah, it's
look,
cool.
I wanted to wait for Zeus and see if he had any final pithy remarks, but I think we've been on for a while now.
Yeah, man.
I think it's time to wrap things up.
No, it's not.
It's not. He says we can hear.
It's not. Okay, well, come on back.
No, I think that we should go just rapid fire our top 3. Does that sound fair?
Fair enough. I'm ready.
Because I got to go. See, my top 3 are in the original trilogies, but Rogue One was such an amazing movie.
It's a good movie.
Like, so well done. So maybe top 5. I'm going to go Empire's number 1, easily. Return of the Jedi. I know this sounds cheesy, but Return of the Jedi is probably my number 2. I really liked it. I still like it. Star Wars is just like, it started it all, so we don't even have to have that in the top 5. That got us into it. Rogue One is probably the next, and then can we go series with this? Because
wait,
you said 3, dude. You're like up to 5.
How about just
keep it at top 3 and go rapid fire? We don't have to explain.
Rapid fire, top 3.
Okay, then I said them.
All right. Well, I would go with I'd go with Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars, A New Hope, whatever. And I would put Rogue One up there with those. I think that overall the whole movie is probably, better than some of the other ones I also like.
I would say the original Star Wars, Empire, and Rogue One.
Yeah, same as me. Okay.
Cool.
We're smart like that.
I'm Star Wars is number one, and then everything else is more or less the same. I love it all, man. It's great.
Yeah, man.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Attack of the Clones stunk.
It doesn't matter.
Jason.
It has moments. It has moments of fun. That's
They
all
all
it needs to be. And it's like it's such a small part of the overall landscape of not even just stories, the overall landscape of what's actually out there for us to watch. You know?
I got you.
I think Jason said that he loved the 77 Star Wars Christmas special.
I remember seeing that when it came out. Does anybody remember seeing that?
I saw it on TV.
Yes, on TV. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
Awful.
and couldn't believe it. People would talk about it. It never came on again. Yeah. I remember the little Chewbacca.
Jason, rapid fire, go.
Jason, sorry.
All right. Empire, Rogue One, Return of the Jedi. Fingers crossed for Knights of the Old Republic. And if they ever get anything featuring Exar Kun, I'm all in.
Love it.
Nice.
I know what you're talking about.
Nice. Very nice. How about you, Desiree?
Yeah, Desiree, you got anything?
I don't know.
Raiders of the Lost Ark, Chinatown.
The Legos are cool. Star Wars Legos are
Taxi
cool.
Driver.
Do you like any movies? No. Okay, that's cool.
So we're gonna watch some movies.
Not that I'm like, this is the best movie I've ever. No, I've seen movies, but I'm not like
nothing's hit you. That's fine.
That's cool.
So she's literally
Titanic was okay, but I think I saw it in it's like 3 settings. I don't know. It's not a thing for me.
Yeah, look, I had to suffer through Titanic because I agreed to watch it. That's all I'm gonna say. That's it.
I showed it like 5,000 times.
The last half where everything goes to shit is great. The first half sucks. But anyway, that's me.
No, I just remember when the old lady goes to the edge of the boat and throws out the diamond in her like little onesie pajamas that she's wearing, like her nightie. I started laughing. I just thought it was funny. Like she's up there.
So as a projectionist,
but there was enough room on the door for Leonardo to fit.
Okay, he's gonna. Cameron's gonna. But as a projectionist, my favorite part, because it was near the end of the movie, was when the ship, the rear end came up, the bow, and the propellers are there, and the dude falls off, and he hits the propeller, and then he spins like. Yeah. I made sure I watched that every time. I've seen that scene 500,000,000 times. It's my favorite part of that whole movie. In fact, in the theater, we all used to call the candy girls, the ticket person, me, we all called him Spin Guy. Because when he hit the propeller, he would.
Titanic is my least favorite Star Wars movie.
All right, we've definitely been on for a while now.
Our heart will go on. Yeah.
All right. May the force be with all of you.
Great episode.
Also with you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Toar,
and
for
also with you.
visiting. Thank you,
Thanks a lot, Toar.
Peace, everybody.